If prior to today you had kind of an inkling that there might not be any real justice left in America, hopefully this story will put that to bed for you. 3 of the 5 former Memphis cops that beat Tyree Nichols to death in January of 2023 were found not guilty of killing Tyree Nichols. This is utterly pathetic and shocking and ridiculous. The Tennessee jury on Wednesday acquitted 3 former Memphis police officers of all state charges stemming from the fatal beating of Tyree Nichols, a 29-year-old black man. And by the way, all of the cops, all 5 were black men. So thankfully, nobody can pull the racist card. This isn't about racism. This is about totalitarianism. It's about authoritarianism. It's about tyranny. So he was born and raised in Sacramento, whose 2023 death intensifies calls for police accountability across the U.S. The jury, described by the Associated Press as appearing all white, found Tadarius Bean, Demetrius Haley, and Justin Smith not guilty of second-degree murder, aggravated assault, aggravated kidnapping, official misconduct, and official oppression, all of which is verified with evidence and facts, video evidence, that they are actually guilty of all these things. How can a jury come back with a verdict that they're not guilty of all the things that they're actually guilty of? The verdict followed a 9-day trial in Memphis. The jury, described by the Commercial Appeal newspaper as, quote, the mostly white jury from Hamilton County, 250 miles east near Chattanooga, spent roughly 8.5 hours deliberating after more than a week of testimony at the Memphis trial before returning the verdict. Nichols died on January 10th, 2023, 3 days after he was pulled over near his home in East Memphis, remember, by the Scorpion Unit, the jump out crew, and brutally beaten by multiple officers, an encounter captured on surveillance and body camera footage. What's the use of wearing body cam if you're not going to hold the person who actually abuses somebody else and murders them accountable? Nichols fled after being pulled from his car and was later subdued. By the way, these guys were in plain clothes. Initially, the Scorpion Unit, they had an unmarked vehicle. Tyree Nichols was like, what the heck's going on here? Is this gang related? What's happening? When they come out, they don't even have uniforms on. Nichols fled after being pulled from his car and was later subdued and struck repeatedly with fists, boots, a taser, and a baton. The beating continued even after he was restrained and crying out for his mother. Paramedics, it adds to insult to injury, the EMTs arrived more than 20 minutes after the beating ended. And check this out, guys. Look at this. They're crying, oh my God, they declared me innocent, even though I'm 100% guilty. Even if you didn't have a hand in beating Tyree Nichols, say hi to Queso. Hey, what's up, Queso? What's up, Queso? Even if you didn't have a hand in beating Tyree Nichols, you watched it happen. You let it happen. And you didn't protect Tyree Nichols from the abusers who were beating him to a pulp. So they're sitting here hugging after the verdict. Footage of the beating captured by a police poll camera, according to the AP, also showed the officers milling about, talking and laughing as Nichols struggled for his very life. We live in an America that can watch a murder happen on camera, and the jury that's deliberating the case against the murders declares them not guilty. Prosecutors argued the officers used excessive force and failed to intervene or report the assault to medical personnel, adding insult to injury. Not only did they beat him, they left him there struggling to breathe, struggling to live, didn't tell the EMTs didn't report on the scene for 20 minutes, and then they weren't even given the downloaded information by the law enforcement officers who are supposed to be protecting and serving. Nobody is saying that this is not a dangerous job, prosecutor Tanisha Johnson said in a closing arguments, as reported by the Washington Post on Wednesday. But because it's a dangerous job does not mean you are immune from making criminal decisions. Well, obviously you are. And now with Trump's executive order, if you haven't seen that, to unleash the full power of law enforcement on American soil, to protect the citizens against the criminals. If you think they have qualified immunity now, wait till the federal immunity kicks in. They're going to have qualified immunity and then a federal immunity Kevlar vest on top of that. Just to reiterate, but because it's a dangerous job does not mean that you're immune from making criminal decisions. Defense attorneys contended that the officers acted, check this out, within department policy and used force only after Nochols resisted arrest. If what the Memphis jump out crew, the Scorpion unit, did is within department policy, everybody in Memphis should be very, very concerned. They argued that another officer, Emmett Martin III, who has pleaded guilty in federal court, delivered the most violent blows and was responsible for escalating the incident. Desmond Mills Jr., another former officer who also pleaded guilty and testified for the prosecution, admitted he failed to stop the beat. So they have a guy on the prosecution side who failed to stop the beating, admitting that he failed to stop the beating, and they still declared the other 3 cops guiltless. He told the court that he struck Nochols with a baton out of anger and described fellow officers yelling commands like, "Hit him! Beat that man!" Not, "Hey, protect this guy's rights. Hey, protect this guy's liberty. Hey, let's protect this guy's life." Tyree Nochols literally did not commit a crime. And now this man is dead and the guys who beat him have been declared innocent. You can't make this stuff up. All 5 officers involved were previously convicted on federal charges related to the incident. Despite the acquittals in the state trial, all 3 officers still face prison time at the federal level where parole is not an option. Sentencing in those cases pending. Haley was found guilty of excessive force and other federal charges, which could result in a life sentence. Bean and Smith face up to 20 years for witness tampering. They can't stop committing crimes. They just can't help themselves. The trial was the latest legal chapter in a case that has drawn national attention to issues of police brutality and accountability, especially in Memphis, major black city. The 5 officers involved, including Bean, Haley, and Smith, were part of the Memphis Police Department's now disbanded Scorpion unit, which had been tasked with crime suppression. You would think that they were paid for crime commission. After the jury's verdict was read, according to the AP and others, the defendants hugged their lawyers as relatives of the former officers cried. One relative yelled, "Thank you, Jesus." What would Jesus do? Well, he wouldn't beat a man senseless, beat a man to death for no freaking reason. That's what Jesus wouldn't do. Leave your thoughts about this for the world and the global thought police in the comments section below. I will see you guys in the next video.